All right, she's a fantastic tech reporter over at CNBC. She's going to help us break down everything Elon Musk related. Nobody knows this man inside and out better than this woman. Lora Kolodny joins us here on the podcast. Laura, Mike Leon, Nick Savary, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast with us today.
Thank you for having me. I don't know if I can, own that crown quite, but I am sort of a resident Elonologist at CNBC.
Oh, see, look at that new terminology for our audience. The Elonologist. I like that.
I think we just found the title of our episode.
Yeah, I think we did. I think I was struggling with what we were going to name it. Now I've got it. Well, let's get into that, Laura, because obviously we invited you on the program. I've been following, obviously, your articles and some of your great reporting on everything that's been happening with Musk with respect to Twitter. This is something we've been wanting to cover for a while here. I have worked in the tech space for close to 10, 12 years, helping to launch products that live out there. So I know more of the product and engineering side of this and have given different perspectives to our audience about that. You have covered Musk and his dealings at Tesla. For our audience right now that maybe knows a lot about this story and the acquisition that happened over the summer, can you give kind of a summation, 30,000 foot view, not so much about the acquisition, but where we are present day with respect to Twitter? We've heard a lot about firings that have happened, resignations, key cards not working at the office for some folks. We've seen things outside the San Francisco office displayed on the ticker. Where are we right now with respect to everything that Elon Musk owns with respect to the Twitter universe? And just give us the rundown, if you could, about everything that he's done with this company so far since acquiring it.
Where do I begin? It's such a sprawling story. I feel like people didn't expect the deal to really go through, but if you talk to some of Elon's inner circle and current and former employees along the way, be they from Tesla, SpaceX, or from some other dealings, they knew this was a serious possibility and that he believed he could run it better than the prior management. And when he finally relented and took over, the deal officially closed October 28th. It's been just drama ever since. This is not a surprise. Some people are like, oh, he's so unpredictable. But I think any Tesla reporter, any SpaceX reporter, anyone who's covered him from the PayPal days is not finding this so surprising, because he always does stuff like this. Steep cuts, to headcount. Bringing his team in wherever he goes. Like, you'll notice a lot of his investors participated in SpaceX, SolarCity, and Tesla or something like that. He's got that entourage, right? And I guess that's not totally uncommon in Silicon Valley, but just going back to PayPal Mafia and how many of them are in deals together. With Twitter, he's communicated to departing and current employees that ideally he would like for subscription revenue to come way up and advertising revenue to get scaled back. I don't know that he's doing that in a way that it will happen in an even manner, right? Like, advertisers are fleeing partly because he's cut so many people so quickly, and they have questions. Can you support what on the advertiser side would be thought of as brand safety, or even cybersecurity for that matter, if we continue to spend money on your platform? Then there was the civil rights issue, okay? As soon as Elon Musk took over, there were racist raids on the platform. You just saw this instant spike of racist and specifically anti-Black and anti-Semitic hate speech, right? Twitter, under Elon's new management, scrambled to contain that. And we heard from a former exec, Yoel Roth, about how they worked, to control that, basically, and get things back under control. But it was still this fairly predictable raid, they call it, when the activity is coordinated on another platform. In this case, it was detectable that this was likely to happen due to conversations that were happening on 4chan. Anyway, because of that, this has created tension with advertisers and civil rights groups. Right, these civil rights activists and leaders have called for advertisers to suspend their campaigns and their further, media buys on that platform until Elon can make some guarantees about this stuff. But again, that is not the advertisers' only concern. They're also worried about things like supporting me, customer service, basic stuff, cybersecurity, can we safely, transact with you and run these campaigns through all the tools that we used to have when you cut the staff down so much? And of course, some of their, point persons in sales and, again, client services. There was a big group inside of Twitter called customers. A whole lot of that team got gutted, right? Which kind of makes sense, because if your goal is, hey, reduce, right, revenue from advertising, then of course you're going to shrink that team. The question remains, did he shrink it too much, right? In particular around content moderation and safety. Tonight, there's breaking news, and I gotta say that we're trying to hold our own over at CNBC, and definitely have broken a bunch of news, but also you gotta recognize some amazing trade journalism and tech bloggers out there who are just breaking story after story. It's definitely not us. Everyone's got interesting angles and exclusives, and I'm super impressed with The Verge and Platformer and what they've been doing. And then Jane Manchung, she's a developer who's a journalist, and she's been just delivering the tech insights one after the other. Whole bunch of great people out there covering this story.
Laura, in terms of what we're seeing with early on with Musk's leadership at Twitter, how does that connect with his leadership at Tesla, his other ventures, in terms of sort of that cult of personality style he brings, most notably on Twitter, some of his tweets about conspiracy theories as it relates to Nancy Pelosi, the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, recently getting into it with Alexander Vindman, a member of the military. Is that part of, I guess, the package with Elon when he steps into your company, joins your company, that his personality sort of comes to the forefront?
So nothing about this deal resembles any other deal he's done. It's like this hostile leveraged buyout of a very mature company that was not profitable, but was getting healthier over time, right? And some of the court documents that we saw so you guys remember, right? Elon Musk signed this deal to acquire Twitter. He had started shoring up a position. Maybe he was going to join the board. And I know you've talked about some of this on the show before, but right, he tried to get out of it, and finally he relented and was like, forget it. All right, I'm going to buy it. I can put this deal together. I got the money. I got the debt financing and the equity partners to do it. We're going to do it. And the documents that came out from that trial, right, you could see he just, he was bombastic. He tends to be that way, right? He's a bombastic leader. And I think he has done this with all of his companies. I'm just I was thinking back about some of the Tesla stuff I've reported through the years. And I was remembering that employees at Tesla around 2017, I covered some standard issue news overnight, Tesla says it's cutting a lot of headcount, kind of steep performance review firings overnight. Reported that just like Tesla said it, quick short item. All night long, the employees were ringing me up hey, that is not true. I got 4 out of 4 stars on the performance review, or whatever the rating scale was at that time. And I got a pink slip. This is not performance related. We think he's trying to cut us because he's just trying to save costs. Effectively, it's a stealth layoff, or maybe he's trying to get me out of here before my shares vest. We saw a lot of the same concern with Twitter employees when he swooped in. And as people were getting cut, they were like, hey, I was really solid contributor here. I don't know why I was among the fired. Then you saw some people bummed out they didn't get terminated, right? Because they wanted the severance package and they were worried they would stay, but maybe they will only last a handful of days. And, that's what we saw. That's one thing. His kind of decisions about personnel and cost cutting can seem very mercurial from the outside, and even seem a little bit cruel.
Laura, I'm going to get into the product and engineering part of this in a second, but I wanted to give you some more space to expand a little bit for people, including myself, who haven't followed Musk, especially at Tesla and at PayPal. You were talking about some of the comparisons. It's not that shocking for people that have been on this beat, that have been Elonologists like yourself, to see the patterns that he has done. Can you get more elaborate into the patterns that he did at Tesla or even at PayPal that you see are kind of forming right now, happening right now, and then the eventual exits at both of those places? And are we on that same path with what he's doing with respect to Twitter?
PayPal is a really separate story. I'm going to set that aside a little bit, although he is interested in adding, payment technology layers and turning Twitter into something like a super app, like a WeChat that they use in China for just about everything. So that sort of connects back to his early payment tech days, but I'm just going to set that aside because he wasn't running the show at PayPal, right? Like PayPal acquired his business so they wouldn't have to compete with him and sort of integrated what they could, scrap the rest, and then, you know, he was out of there. But basically with Tesla, you know, this is funny, but people always think he was the founder of Tesla because certainly he's grown Tesla and his imprimatur is, you know, what we think of Tesla today. But he actually was not the founder. He jokes about this. He's the fourth CEO of Tesla, but he's also very bitter about the founders of Tesla, in particular, one of them named Martin Eberhard, who is on a lot of the company's early key patents and is a real like inventor's inventor. So Tesla was founded by these guys, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Martin is still, you know, involved in like advising startups and working around battery tech and clean transportation and things like that, energy. And Mark is working with a VC firm, similar stuff, but just a little more formality around it, I'd say, called Sparrow Ventures. It's Omidyar's fund. Anyway, sorry for the, I digress into like startup land, but Elon, you know, Elon took over Tesla and like really made it his own. Okay. I mean, he was the early investor, chairman, and had a big influence there, but he wasn't the original CEO and he didn't design like the Roadster core technology, like the battery pack, the HVAC, that stuff was like in play, right? I mean, he had ideas about electric cars. He was really important proponent, advocate, chairman, all that stuff, but he wasn't like, he didn't have an operational role there right away. He took it over, you know, and you could say that he's taking over Twitter with a similar aim to like really put his mark on it, like make it his own, remake it. At Tesla, you know, they had the Roadster, which was their first, you know, they didn't make that many, maybe 2,000 to 3,000. I'd have to look up the number. Don't quote me on that. But they didn't have all this like over-the-air software update stuff yet. The car definitely had in-vehicle software, but these over-the-air software updates by Wi-Fi weren't happening. And that's like, I think when we talk about Tesla many years from now, that will be Tesla's biggest impact in automotive, not electrification per se. It was super important for mainstreaming electrification, you know, and giving other automakers a sense of like how to do it. Like, do you want to run your own charging network instead of waiting for the infrastructure to get built out, and all these other important questions. And obviously they're way ahead on powertrain compared to some other companies that are just getting into it. But that over-the-air software update thing, that was like his mark on Tesla in my mind. And I don't know what it will be for him at Twitter, but he's acting like a founder, even though he's just coming into Twitter right now. Another thing is he's always been able to drum up plenty of buzz through his own Twitter account. Like, I don't know if normies who aren't totally obsessed with Tesla or Elon Musk or something are following at this level, but when Tesla went public, this was an era when social media was still rising and we didn't have norms in business around all this stuff. And Tesla put in their like proxy filing announcing, you know, details of the IPO and stuff, that shareholders should check Elon's Twitter account as an official communications channel for, you know, company information. So when he tweets company information, is official, the Twitter account. And he's doing the same. He's doing the same thing at Twitter now. It's almost kind of funny that he owns Twitter, or crazy. But you know, I do think it's, I don't know if ironic is the word, probably not. It's a little insane that he now has to sell some amount of advertising on Twitter, considering that Tesla has never really spent heavily on any traditional advertising. And when they have done advertising marketing, it tends to be things like events, you know, where you're like courting influencers and, you know, branding, things like that, merch, whatever is non-traditional. And then you're trying to convince advertisers to spend their money on straight up like promoted campaigns on your social platform. He's gotten all that for free through Twitter for Tesla, and now he has to sell it to other brands. And he's bellyaching this week about like, why did Apple like reduce their spending with us? Is it because Tim Cook and Apple hate free speech, and I just have to laugh. But he's good at drumming up conversation and buzz, and he really doesn't seem to care about. He's very callous, I'll say, towards real issues, real harms. In 2017, I think the lawsuit came in 2018. I have to look it up. It was Marcus Vaughn versus Tesla. It was one of the early worker proposed class action lawsuits against Tesla, where employees, workers, contractors were saying, hey, there is some severe racist discrimination and other unsafe practices within the Fremont facility of Tesla. This is their first US car assembly plant. And like Elon Musk considered it, these documents came out in the lawsuit. Elon Musk considered them and sent this everybody email, one of his famous everybody emails. That's a thing he does at all his companies. It's almost like instead of a press release, just send out an email to like thousands of employees and you're pretty sure it'll leak any minute, right? But basically he said in an everybody email at that time, like, hey, it's important not to be a huge jerk, but also if someone is a huge jerk to you and then they apologize, just be thick-skinned and kind of deal with it. And he's had a very similar attitude, at Twitter. Like, this is my mission, Twitter 2.0, sign the pledge or get out, deal with it. Like, I know you don't like my ideas about free speech, or do you? Like, just deal with it. You have to just kind of suck it up. This is what I'm doing. And he's unapologetic that way. And I don't know, in this case with Twitter, I don't know if it'll play out the same way where he can just continue to be that way and grow revenue. It's a big question mark.
I'm reminded of the movie from a few years ago, The Founder, of Ray Kroc, for McDonald's. The joke of the title is he didn't found the company, he was founded by the brothers. In the story of Tesla, obviously Twitter is not, something of his creation. And thank you again for that literacy moment of educating us that Tesla is also not founded by Musk. We know from the movie and the story of Ray Kroc that it was really the vision of franchising. There was a strength that he had that puts that brand on the map. What exactly is Elon's strengths in the companies that he's a part of?
Don't you think it varies company to company? With SpaceX, he assembled this team that has just been executing on pretty extreme, sorry for the wordplay, but like moonshots, right? But also SpaceX, he's been able to sort of subsidize SpaceX a little bit with his personal wealth and the wealth of the inner circle that got great returns off of either Solar City, which Tesla acquired and rescued, or off of Tesla's growth through the years, right? Like, he can bring along the capital with him. And other aerospace startups in this sort of like new space era of aerospace where NASA's working with the private sector more and more, they don't have that advantage, with the exception of, Bezos' Blue Origin. They can draw on his personal wealth. But it's, being able to draw in people like Gwen Shotwell and just execute on these massive plans. I do think that at Tesla, he's been very entertaining to the customers, and he sort of picked up where Martin and Mark left off. Like, Martin and Mark would, send sort of like emails, and they had an early blog where they talked to customers that pre-ordered, just keeping them posted. Like, we know your Roadster is taking a really long time. Here's what's going on. They were doing events, and he picked up and he just took that to the hilt. And Tesla's brand rose with social media, right? Like, he could see that. Someone who had worked in Silicon Valley on some successful startups, including in like hyper local advertising, local news stuff, he could see that social media had this potential, and he just leaned into that, used Twitter to its max. They do a lot with YouTube that's sort of, I think, overlooked, but SpaceX and Tesla both like make intense use of video content, and they both really, engage with influencers, if not mainstream media or whatever, traditional journalists or something. And they just take advantage of that, being able to build this sort of online fan base that is fervent, a little crazy.
Right. Well, I want to stay with the movie themes because Nick just opened the door with Ray Kroc. I'm going to stay with another movie, one of my favorite movies, The Money Pit, with Tom Hanks and Shelley Long. Lora, do you think Elon has any regret or buyer's remorse with respect to purchasing Twitter? Because, one of the things when we first started covering the purchase and things like that, and with respect to free speech, that I've maintained about, you're a renter. in this house. This is the Twitter house. You want to do something about it, you can buy it. Or what you can do is get Amazon to start some web hosting services. You can create your own, application, right? And I told people on the episode, I'll help you wireframe it. I got a design agency that we can use. I got an engineering shop that we can build this out. We can start creating tab bar and new elements and things like that and test out UI, UX. We can do all of that. But you're a renter in the house. Well, now he's bought the house and he's realizing what are the issues, right? With respect to the movie, right? They fell through the middle of a hole. Now there's some holes with respect to Twitter. Do you think there's anything with respect to buyer's remorse on his end? Or do you think he can power through this, and with the changes that he makes, eventually he'll get Twitter to that place where he thinks that not only it's better for free speech, but also financially benefits him as well?
Let's examine that assumption that he's really all about free speech. He's characterized himself as a free speech absolutist in the past, but then you'll notice that at Tesla or anywhere else, he's asking employees to, sign mandatory arbitration and NDA agreements and things like that. Previously, the author Ed Niedermeyer had pointed this out in earlier reporting in his book, Ludicrous Mode, but Tesla used to ask customers to sign an NDA in order to get repairs. They got in trouble over that, with regulators. Like, you can't do that. The customer's warranty repairs or goodwill repairs should not require their silence forevermore. And he's for a kind of free speech, his vision of free speech, but I don't think his track record on free speech is consistent. And I could give you, lots of other examples there, but moving on, I'm not about to forecast what happens. I will say he has put his empire at risk significantly. This company, Twitter, is now saddled with debt. It is taking his time and attention. One of my stories in recent weeks was about the fact that Twitter had authorized, 50 plus people from Elon Musk companies, including like about 50 to 60 from Tesla, most of whom were autopilot software engineers or related, software engineers, to come over and help him at Twitter. It wasn't clear how much time they would be spending long term or how they would be paid. Will Twitter pay them? Will Tesla pay them? Will he pay them? But he has put his empire at risk, and Tesla shareholders, some of them are very concerned about the distraction and also the effect, right? Tesla shares have been declining year to date. It was over 50% today. It varies a bit, but compared to last year, they were skyrocketing, right? And now it's like, what's going on? Is your distraction with Twitter, and you're beefing with regulators, you're beefing with Apple, you're sounding off politically, you're clashing with these civil rights leaders, advertisers, you name it. Is that going to tarnish your position at Tesla? Is it going to make it harder for us to recruit people who now don't believe that you have this environmental mission? Is it going to make it harder for us to retain talent that's tired of waiting around for shares to vest when the shares are tanking? Are we going to have a harder time selling the cars? Those questions are weighing heavy on some shareholders' minds. And I really do think he's put his empire at risk. So I have to believe he will try everything he can to make Twitter profitable enough to pay down this debt. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some way he can get a write down if it tanks, and never pay taxes again. I'm not the finance expert. I run out and I get those people to talk to me like I'm a fifth grader and explain it so I can put them into stories and get that for you. But I don't really want to prognosticate. I just know that it seems truly existential for him and his sort of empire of industry.
Laura, as we wrap up 2022, knowing what you know and just your reporting about Elon, there's already been some speculation of perhaps bringing in a CEO, another face at Twitter to potentially downplay a little bit of the erratic behavior of their current owner. By end of 2023, Q1 of 2023, how likely do you think it is that Elon finds someone to become the new face of the organization as the CEO?
He said in while he was testifying in a trial, in another matter, not about Twitter, but over his CEO compensation at Tesla, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Tesla shareholders, a group of them, believe that the board should never have granted him this, truly unprecedented, massive pay package at Tesla, right? And they also said that shareholders weren't fully informed of all the details they should have been when they voted to authorize it and all this stuff. So they've sued Tesla essentially to have Musk disgorge back some of that money, some of his shares back to Tesla, right? Anyway, it's called Tornetta, that trial. And while he was testifying in that trial, he said, these Tesla employees were just spending a little time over at Twitter, and it was like on a volunteer basis kind of thing. He wasn't very specific about it. And he's also tweeted that it's just a temporary situation with his being the sole director and the CEO of Twitter. So if you take that at face value, he should likely be actively looking for someone to run Twitter. I don't know who he would trust. I frankly think, as someone who observes the way he does business, it often seems like he hires people and then has a hard time trusting their expertise. That is why you will see a fairly high amount of attrition at Tesla, even in the upper ranks, like with the 20 plus people that are direct reports to him. He has a lot of direct reports, and they don't all stay for long. In particular, Tesla has had trouble hanging on to, or even hiring a general counsel, like the top lawyer. And yeah, there are other roles. Andre Karpathy left earlier this year, and he was sort of heading up the advanced AI initiatives within Tesla outside of some of the autopilot stuff. And it's challenging, I think. Anytime you have a very driven, outsized personality like an Elon Musk, trusting's got to be hard anyway. But I don't know. Who do you think? I mean, who could you see coming in and running Twitter? Who would satisfy, right, his sort of demands?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Bob Iger, but that doesn't seem like it's going to happen now. But
yeah, that's not going to happen now. We leave that as an open-ended question for our audience. You can email us, canwepleasetalkpodcast@gmail.com. You have a pick? Maybe we'll do a Elon CEO pool. Lora Kolodny is a fantastic reporter over at CNBC. You can check out all her work at cnbc.com. Lora, I can't thank you enough for not only naming the title of this episode, I'm an Elonologist, but thank you for all your great reporting and insights into this man and everything that's been happening with the acquisition of Twitter and then the subsequent news coming out of there. Continued success to you, and please stay safe.
Thanks, you too. Now I have like 100 questions for you guys about how you're planning to use Twitter in the future as creators. So hit me back so I can interview you.
Oh, look at that.
Absolutely.
Well, we leave that for another time. Thank you so much, Lora. Hey, thanks for watching the Can We Please Talk podcast. Whatever clip you just watched, we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you stick around for some more. Subscribe to the channel. My partner's over here smashing the button. Come on, do him a favor. So hit subscribe.